Why are the original so-called black people hated so much in the South? Only question till next live. My mum asked this. Okay. Great question, Sonny Fro. Before I answer that, have you pressed the like button yet? If you haven't, please do so now, okay? Okay, so the question is, why are so-called blacks or so-called black people hated so much in the South? The first thing is that I'm glad you said so-called black people, because this is one of the things that we keep emphasizing. We understand why people use that term, and words are very powerful. Words are very important, because when you're saying black people, if you go and research that and look in the dictionaries and look at what they classify as black people, that's not actually us, but we understand. But we need to understand that we are Nuwapians and not black people. But we know why, so that we can articulate ourselves, because, you know, the races are classified as black, white, oriental, etc. But these terms are just labels. And the question is not just hated in the South, worldwide. And I think it's important because it's about truth. You know, when you have to deal with the truth, some people find the truth difficult to deal with, or sweet to the mouth but bitter to the stomach. So when I say truth, it's like we're living in a day and time where truth is being revealed. And in the South especially, this is going back to where there was a lot of tensions and racism, and, you know, going back to the so-called civil rights movement, segregation, and all these things where, you know, people were looked at, or black people were looked at as being subservient or being less than a man, and even like not regarded as equal, you see. So, but the reality is, when you start to look at the contributions of so-called black people to the world, not just the South, you start to find out that the realities of stories that were fabricated and told to people worldwide are now starting to be unraveled. So so-called black people never really had the opportunity to tell their own story. So everything people learned about them was through the eyes of other races, right? Through other books or religious books. And in these books, even in just like history, his story, you know, you were depicted to be unsavory, the bad guys, the, you know, like the whole connotation with the colors and black and white and the racism. And, you know, it's like when you start to break it down and look at the natures of people and what we do as black people, or what people have done over the years, over the last, say, 6,000 years, you start to find a very different story. So now that we are telling our own story, which they deemed a mystery, because remember that when you say history, it's what has been recorded by someone or some people. And so if you went back beyond 6,000 years and start to go back to ancient times, to ancient Africa, and now studies of everyone on the planet have been revealed, down to like DNA, down to what have you done, like even down to creation of the universe and beyond, even down to biblical recordings or scriptures, you'll start to find a different story, which is contradicting what, you know, the people in the South or worldwide, other races were trying to talk and say about black people. And so the hatred is really coming from their own God. And like, we did a video called "You Need to Be Endarkened, Not Enlightened," because this all played on racism. Because if God dwells in darkness, because he said, "Let there be light," that means God dwells in darkness. And if you're dark or black and God resides in you, then what will be the opposite to that? Because this is what the games were being played in terms of everything black was given a negative connotation. Blackboard, your blackboard, your, blackmail, so many words that related to that word black were given negative connotations. And everything white was prescribed or presumed to be purity. Like angels wear white gowns. You get married in a white gown. Everything white is, given the impression that it's clean and, white and right. And if you're black, stay back. So now when you start to go and look at, how these two natures play out, you realize that the truth is far from what was being written in history. And in my story was referred to as a mystery. It's a mystery to people who were not there at the time when we were there in our story, right? So we say prehistory is prehistoric, right? So when we go prehistoric, beyond 6,000 years, beyond the Bible, the Quran, and the Abrahamic religions, right? We start to go into cultures that existed way before the European or the Adamites came on the scene and wrote their history based on when they came on the scene. So now we're living in a day and time where everything is being clarified and renewed, because there's a new cycle of 24,000 years where our story must be renewed and must be told. So of course, if you were the world champion for a very long time and now someone else comes along that knocks you out in the first round, and now you're not the world champion anymore, of course you're going to have that. But this actually goes back to their God. When I say their God, I'm talking about the gods of religion, because he says in Genesis 3 that he was going to put enmity between the serpent and the woman's seed. You see? So when we say the woman's seed, we have to realize who was the first on the planet. It would be the woman. But which woman? Because there's a woman of 6,000 years ago who they refer to as Eve, or the Adamites, where Adam and Eve comes from. And then you have the Eve that goes back millions and millions of years ago to our story, to the African story, where we start to deal with, the Pataites, or these beings that they've found, such as Lucy, and they've found remains and have done a lot of, research to find out, well, who was here first. And then you look at the natures and what each race has done on the planet. The black people, African people, never went around colonizing anyone or subjugating or putting people into slavery or starting wars or stealing people's resources or any of that. So, you have to realize that this enmity, or the word enmity, is really hatred. Yeah. So when you're asking that question about, why they hated, is because you stand for everything that represents God. And to be treated otherwise based on misinformation or distortion of information, where you're now looked upon worldwide as a troublemaker, as somebody that's not organized, somebody that doesn't get along, somebody that only deals with crime. But then when you look at the other side, you're also the most creative, the most giving in terms of what you've given to the world, in terms of sports, creativity, music, you name it. So, of course, it comes down to that type of jealousy. And all these attributes like enmity and jealousy, right? These are the attributes that the gods of the Bible and the Quran show, which makes no sense, because if you are the creator of everything and you can snap your fingers and create everything and have everything and you're the most powerful, then it would make no sense for you to be jealous of anyone or anything because they've got more than you or they are better than you or whatever the reason is why you say I am a jealous God. Why you say have no other gods but me. Why would you need to say that if you own everything? How can you have emotions which really show that to have emotions like jealousy and hatred, and you look throughout these books, these gods of the Bible are doing a lot of hateful things, drowning and, sacrificing things and, asking people to, give sacrifices of blood and even of children, So, yeah, so now it's like the tables are being turned, unfortunately, because our story has to be told and we are the best people to tell our story. And it's being told by way of Wu-Sabat being the oldest, the first, the original stories where others were grafted from. Their stories come from stories that come from stories that end up back with the original people on the planet first. It's just that we never were really given our own voice. And now with Pana Babyanun, Dr. Malachi Ziyok coming in and writing all these books on every subject you can think of, every question you can think of, has given the world opportunity to hear our story, and anyone who resonates with truth, anyone who would like to deal with unity and love and caring, and these are the things, these are the attributes of our nature as black people. The world over, I will tell you this. You go on social media now, you won't be surprised to find what you may consider what people call white race. Again, there's no such thing as a white race, but you hear Europeans and Caucasians and Asians and other races are saying this. They're saying Jesus was black. They're saying, we've been mistreated all along, the slavery, all these things. Now people are starting to know the real deal and the truth behind it. How Africa was, basically the resources were divided and shared amongst many nations, and Africa was exploited, and till this day, to a certain degree, still being exploited. So that's the answer to that question for you regarding why black people are hated in the South. And remember that you had people that were given this false information, and you had organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, wearing white robes with hoods and, terrorizing people back then. And so, again, this is all going back historical, but we're living in a day and time today where we're saying in Wu-Sabat, love and unity, love is the key, That's really a shuk or divine love, which is unconditional, which is not a easy thing to do, having, been through what we've been through, all right? Remember, today you can call in, as usual, on the number. Yeah, if you're calling from outside the UK, you have to put the area code +44 753 996 3882. All right, I repeat, +44 753 996 3882. Okay, I hope that answered that question for you. All right, that was for you, Sonny Fro. Let's move on to the next question. Canada in the house, Simple Mona living, Rahubat. Henrique in the house, Rahubat. Okay. Pharaoh, Rahubat. It's Curtis. Can we have a full episode on our own periodic table, please? Zamal, that shows which ancestors coincide with which elements. Okay, for example, Ray, hydrogen, Sebek, palladium. Okay, yeah, we'll do a video on that. That's a great request. Yeah, so we'll do a video on that. And we've had a few requests for videos, and we're working our way through them. So be patient. Yeah, if there's a video that you would like to suggest, let us know. Nisim Tillery, is this realm a rehabilitation place of some sort? If so, are we enduring this journey to find something we don't remember? Yes, but it's more this planet, not this realm, but this planet. Yeah, this planet is, for lack of a better word, we're quarantined here, right? Quarantine, like you're being put in a section, like a waiting room, for you to be able to learn the lessons. It's like like you say, a rehabilitation center where, if you're in prison and you can show that you've reformed, then you can be released. And so, yes, the whole purpose of you being here is to learn the lessons, to graduate, to move on to higher realms, or to leave here and not come back. And these lessons include you learning how to disengage from your physical skin suit, right? This is where the practices of astral projection, or being able to kind of like leave your body and come back. And we do this anyway when we go to what people call sleep. But sleep is like the sister to what you're calling death. And so you get to practice this. But if you're preoccupied, or your mind and your being is preoccupied with a lot of the junk that you take in, and during the time when you're supposed to be traveling to other dimensions and realms, and kind of like being given leave to go and experience those other dimensions, and then in preparation for when you leave here. And Wu-Sabat is the school, right? Wu-Sabat is the ancient teachings that everyone sought. Yeah, all the best thinkers, the best minds went to seek this knowledge in ancient times. This is why everybody was going to Egypt, okay? Because what you're calling Egypt, pre-dynastic, was the land that gave the rest of the world civilization. And that came from our ancestors who came from the stars. Okay, so that is what you're being taught in Wu-Sabat. So when you go to, say, learn in the Western institutions, you're given knowledge in a fragmented way, so you would learn, a bit of history here, a bit of this, a bit of that. It's like learning about your little finger, but not learning how that finger connects to your hand and to your arm, and how the arm connects to the torso, and how everything is interrelated and interconnected. You see, so when you went to ancient Egypt, you were studying, and you really learned about the universe, not just going to university to learn one degree. Because when you look at it, a circle has 360 degrees, which is representative of a full circumference of knowledge of everything, right, within your surroundings. And you are the center of that circle. And you can draw various degrees, right? If you split that circle like a cake, you cut it into many pieces all around, but you're in the middle, and you have many degrees to accomplish or to learn. 360 of those which deal with the physical realm. Okay, then you have to graduate and master the 360 degrees, which is the counterpart of the physical, and that's the spiritual realm, which also gives you another 360 degrees of knowledge that you have to master. And once you master the two, you've now got 720 degrees, because for everything in the unseen world or the seen world, there is a counterpart in what you call the unseen world. And when you say unseen, it is there, but it's in a vibration or a realm or a dimension that you have to use the other parts of you which are not here. I.e., we say things like your pineal gland or the third eye, which sees beyond the physical spectrum or the visible light spectrum, which is where you're currently able to see the things within the physical. However, to see things that are beyond the physical, you have to raise your inner being. Your inner being is going to consist of the parts of you that you know are there, but you don't know, or they're not tangible for you, enough for you to be like, okay, this is my mind. So your mind is actually outside. So this is the mental realm that you're connecting to. So yes, you have to master everything within, or as much as possible. It's like when we say everything, when you go to university or you're studying any course, you don't have to get everything, but you have to get a pass mark, right? And depending on what that is, 50% is halfway, right? So you normally have to pass and get more than 50%. 60, 70% is great. 80 or good student. And 90% and above, obviously, even better. So you master what you can, and Wu-Sabat is able to answer all these questions to teach you in a holistic manner, not just you learn one degree and you don't know about the other 359. So you were taught in ancient times in a holistic way. You learned about science, you learned about alchemy, you learned about, nature, you learned about everything all at once. And this is why they were referred to as the greater mysteries. Those who didn't make the grade or just got a bare pass, they were given the lesser mysteries, you see. And so it's really down to you. If you're ready as the student, the master teacher will come. And that's why Parnabab Yanun, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, is referred to as the master teacher. He's the one that has written these books, and is the one that was teaching back in those days as the being most known as Tahuti or Thoth or Hermes, depending on which culture and which language you're using to interpret who this being is. But he's here once again to renew everything, to make everything clear, to set the record straight, to tell the truth regardless. And people have to reckon with it. Those who are ready, regardless of your background, your religion, doesn't matter if you're, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, because we went through these schools so that we can learn and know what they were being taught. And we graduated from those as we walked back into our culture of Wu-Sabat, the original way for beings on this planet, before it got desecrated and then distorted, and now people are confused with misinformation and wrong information. So we have to come as student teachers of Parnabab Yanun and set the record straight. This is not about your emotions. It's not about you liking me or not liking me, liking Dr. York or not liking him, because you can't please everyone. But truth is truth. It doesn't matter who you are. If you hear the truth and it resonates, you say, that's true. And some people will fight and wrestle to hold on to old ways, because one of the things that people struggle with is change. Like if you want to improve, you have to change. If you're going down a particular, like if you're, for example, you're gaining too much weight, which is affecting your health, you have to change. You have to change your diet. You may have to do some exercise, change your habits. You have to change. And that's the one thing that is constant and recognized by anyone, right? One thing that is unanimous. Doesn't matter whether you're black, white, green, yellow, purple, pink, Christian, Muslim. We can come here and say Brahubat, or we can say Assalamu alaikum. We can say, Shalom lakum, Hebrew. Arabic, we can say, like I said, Assalamu alaikum. We can say greetings, Rahubat. We keep the tones positive. You can say hello, but we know hell is low, is a low vibration. We're trying to raise everyone's consciousness and vibration to be more positive, to think faster and react with right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, and most of all, sound right reasoning. All right. So yes, you've got to graduate, and that's what Wu-Sabat's here to do and help you do that. Let's keep moving on with the questions. Okay, so that was Nisim. Let's move on. Remember, like this video because it does help us. Deveron, folks, sir, what does Doctor think about 3 Atlas? The thing is, right, I find it quite interesting, like names and titles. You know, like it's a meteorite that is heading to the planet. Normally, when people find out something or discover it, if they're first, they will name it after their name, or they'll come with a name that they think describes what it is, right? So when you say, what does he think about it? Excuse me, he tells us and gives us information way before it becomes public. So he's already written about the meteorite and everything that was heading to this planet in the book, in fact, called The Nine. Okay, so if you haven't got hold of that book, you can get hold of that. And he explains about it already. So it's not about what he thinks about it. He gives us information and tells us what's going to happen, like everything else that he has taught and shown us and given us since the 60s till now comes to pass. You know, so it's like, what does Doc think about it? I mean, you know, you're not reading his mind. He's already wrote the book, told us what it is, when it's coming, when it's going to hit, even though people may say it's not going to hit. But we listen to the warner, the guide, the one who knows. So yeah, if you want to know more about that, you can read My Brother the Extraterrestrial. You can read The Nine. Greetings everyone on TikTok as well. Good to have you here on board. All right, stay tuned.
Someone said, "Is this still AEO?"
Where's that? Oh, and on TikTok. Yeah, okay, yeah, it is. In so far as when I said that the master teacher covers the full circumference of the physical and the spiritual, what people will consider or call the spiritual anyway, means that there are certain aspects of the teachings which those who are really serious and dedicated, like those who used to go in ancient times to Egypt to be initiated and be taught the higher mysteries, right? AEO, which if you were involved in any type of spiritual teaching, whether it's from religion, that there will always be a higher science or teachings. So in Islam, for instance, you would have the Sufi order, yeah, which was the same in Christianity, which was referred to as the Essenes or the Essene order, right? Every teaching has a higher level, right? So we had many spiritual orders as the Sons of the Green Light, for example, for those who remember. Then you had Ammon, yeah, which was the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. And these teachings, just like the teachings on the less esoteric level, they evolve and they grow and they get upgraded and updated. It's the same way these spiritual or lessons are taught on the esoteric aspect of things. So that metamorphosized into AEO, the ancient Egyptian order, right? Remember, I said ancient. Ancient is going back to those teachings that were lost or hidden and were only passed from mouth to ear. And there were many orders within that, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, you know. So yes, AEO is the continuation or the evolvement of our mom into AEO, ancient Egyptian. And when we say ancient, that's why we differentiate the way we spell Egypt. We spell it with an I, not a Y. So it's EGIPT, okay, which basically shows you that the 9, which is the I, is the 9th letter, showing the uniqueness, tying into the 9 ether. And when anyone else on the planet searched Egypt with the Y, you would get a million plus references of books and everyone trying to decipher and trying to break down the pyramids, trying to break down the Egyptians, who they were, what did they do, how did they do this, and how did they build the pyramids, and so on and so forth. So when we say ancient Egypt, we're going pre-dynastic, going back to the original inhabitants, those original beings that were seeded on this planet by way of our ancestors, Parnatharu, going back to the heavens. And this is where the concept of God was grafted from, because our ancestors came here and were able to basically do everything that got grafted or imitated, yeah, into these books. So when you're reading about, when we said a God of the Bible can't do certain things, and he has emotions, and he's jealous, and he has hatred, and you know, you're dealing with these extraterrestrial beings, right, that came afterwards and grafted beings on the planet in their image and in their likeness. You see, that's why the planet today still has those people who correlate or relate to these beings doing those same things of, you know, unaliving things, people, wars, famine and bloodshed, and you know, sacrifices, and all these things that are still going on till today come by way of these beings that are referred to in your scriptures as Elohim, you know, Anunnaki, Anakim, you know, all these other named Pleiadians. You know, they have many, many names as extraterrestrials from different star systems, different constellations. And they came here, walked, talked, did certain things, taught people on the planet to worship them. And that's why you see these different personalities, you know, they call them Enki, Yahweh, Enlil, etc., etc. And these are the characters that people are following, not realizing, and they pass themselves off as what? Angels, you know, and depending on which culture, language you're reading from, you get confused because they get translated into the English as just the word God. And then people say big G, little g, all of that, which confuses you even further, because when you know the, what they say, Semitic languages, you start to see that those games are not really played, which is why you're encouraged to learn and study and go deep, not just the physical stuff, not the dogma and just read the books, but like transform yourself with every aspect of your being. All right, so yes, AEO, Ancient Egyptian Order, which is yet to be fully, which most are fully to be initiated, okay? Because most have been accepted, or some have been accepted, but you haven't been fully initiated. All right, let's keep going. The Amen hidden, would that be the dark the dark on the Kabbalah tree? No, Amen would be Amun, the hidden one, because a lot of the hidden information is being now revealed as we come from Amun through that hidden, or the darkness of Anun, to Atum, or the way to, on the way to Atun, and then back to Amun, the cycle, okay? Mitchie Jones, the land is ours in America. They have to keep hating and perpetuating racism in the South because it's literally tribal land. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we on the planet, to be honest, when you really know who the owners of the planet, because the planet is real estate and it's owned by someone. And it was actually, if you could call it, some custodians were given the opportunity to lease it or for 6,000 years because they were given dominion over the planet. And Adam was to name everything, and he basically was given 6,000 years to have it and rule. But that the lease has ended and the time is up, and now it's the landlords are back and they want it back, and so the Adamites are being faded away, all right, and that was from the year 2000. So when you see a lot of the clinching and the holding on, it's not like, you know, things happen instantly as the magic that you are taught about the gods of the Bible, going, let there be light and let there be this and let there be that. So it doesn't work that way. It does take time because natural nature evolves in cycles and has a process. So, you know, things get a bit worse before they calm down. It's a bit like a mother giving birth. You have to go through the labor pains and then the joy comes after once they go through that and push the baby out. That's if you're not too posh to push. Yeah. Some people take the easy route or their body is not framed enough to be able to do that, so they might have a cesarean instead of doing it the natural way.
Someone said, is the planet Earth up for grabs?
It is. That's why I said it's real estate. And when we say up for grabs, it's, yeah, who's in control? Who has the power? And, you know, when extraterrestrials come to this planet, as they depict in the movies, what do they say? They say, take me to your leader. They want to know who owns it, who's in control, who's in power. So if you're not acting like you are a deity responsible, a god, goddess, then, and you're not able to carry yourself in that way, then who are they going to go to? They're going to go to someone who can make decisions, someone who has power and the ability to make things happen and trade. And, you know, that's what they do. They go to those in power. Prime ministers, presidents, influential people. They know that they can say, you know, we give you some technology, but we want this in return. And it's not always what we would consider agreeable, what they want. So many deals have been made over the years, but right now, yeah, the beings from Andromeda, who are androgynous, they were the ones, you know, in control, and you can see whoever that being is when they're in control. You see the influences on the planet, the types of fashions or the types of things that people start doing, or that you see maybe those in influential positions, whether they're entertainers and music stars and rappers, or they will start pushing a particular fashion or a new like slang or something new, not realizing that they're actually doing the bidding of some of these beings. So, you know, you heard the uprise of the LGBT community and things like that because of these androgynous beings.
Someone said, can you tell me about the mothership, please?
What do you want me to tell you about it? It's the mothership. Okay, let's just look at.
We got a call.
Okay, we got a live caller, so I'm gonna put a pin on it and come back to that.
Oh, I missed it.
Okay, we'll wait for them to call back. Right, think about the word mother. What does a mother do? A mother houses Like a baby. Okay, we got a call. We'll come back to that. Rahubat, greetings.
All right, how about second? Am I live?
Tua, you are.
Hey, how's it going? So, I feel like now is a good time to ask this question because it's been on my mind for a while, and I kind of already know your stance on it. I'm going to talk about, or I'm asking rather, about the use of psychedelics or specifically weed. Let's go with the use of marijuana. You know, um, I've heard you say in the past that Dr. York, or like essentially you guys don't really support the use of marijuana. Is that right?
Not entirely.
Not entirely,
So
right?
right.
So here's my question, because
Would you like
personally,
would you like
this
me
is
to
this is kind of
correct?
like
Would you like me to tell you what we do say?
sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right. We deal with things that are natural, right? So plants or herbs in their natural state are consumed in a particular way that is healthy, right? So, for example, you can have a drink or tea or something with a natural herb. So we don't condone being intoxicated. We don't we don't we don't encourage or condone or promote or teach anyone to be intoxicated knowingly on anything, any types of substance. That is even including cigarettes, for example. So yes, it's not that we don't we know that when most people today don't have it as a natural plant or natural form and consume it in a natural way because it's made and things are added. You don't know where the source of it is, and then people will then smoke it and put smoke into their lungs when your lungs are not designed to take that smoke. It's designed to take air. And so then when you add the tobacco and the paper, as in the Rizzler paper or whatever paper you use, that's different substances that are also being consumed at the same time. So we say, of course, there are legal and medicinal and health reasons why some people will have it, and we don't give out medical advice. But what we're saying is that we don't really encourage anybody to be intoxicated in any way, shape, or form because it messes with you as a being, as a supreme being. It messes with your mental, it messes with certain aspect of your spiritual being. So I hope that's clear.
But if you do need it, then it's okay, right?
Pardon?
No, I'm just saying. So if you do need it, like some people, they need religion. Some people need Christianity to tell them, hey, don't rob, don't steal, and ultimately it'll set them on the right path, right?
Well, when you
Think
say
that.
need, or if you need it, in
Yeah.
Wu-Sabat, we teach the culture of Wu-Sabat, and we have what we do and what we don't do, as in the way. We call that Partarak, right? And our way, this is how we live, and others may choose to do what they want. Now, weed is one of those things that it's something that people have become addicted to, and it's many people find it hard, just like any other addiction, to let go. But it does affect your mental faculties, and it affects you more than you know on a spiritual level. So we don't dictate to people what to do or what not to do. We teach the actual facts and we teach our culture for those who want to embrace it. So when people say you do need or if you need it, well, that's up to you. But that's not what we
Well,
teach.
it was more for question. It was more for question because personally, I don't believe in Christianity, but I do believe that I've met people who absolutely need Christianity, to set them on the right path. So I'm just making that comparison. Like, would you agree that this statement about Christianity is true, and could you also apply that to the use of marijuana, for example?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, if you have a better alternative, why would you continue to use the one that is less positive or that is damaging for you? Of course, people have to go through the stages. Like, if you don't know any better, and that
Right.
is a step towards going to, like, for example, you may be somebody that is very, let me say, disagreeable in terms of the things you do, the actions, or you may be a very violent. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but what I'm saying is, if going into Christianity or into religion such as Islam or any religion helps you to clean yourself up, to start to be a much more agreeable person. And if you're
Yeah, then
really
that's a
searching for
benefit.
the
Yeah.
truth, right? But what I'm saying is a stepping stone. It's like you would not remain in nursery forever because, or kindergarten, right? Because you're
Right.
growing and you're changing and you're evolving. So nature and anything that is alive evolves and changes. So yes, you will go into Christianity, going into Islam. This is what we had to be walked through so that we are able to accommodate or deal with anyone from any walk of life. But what happens is that
Right.
after you
Yeah.
get to a certain point, you start to want to know more, because the questions that you have cannot be answered fully in these religions because they actually plagiarize or they're copies from the original. So what I'm saying is, if you
Mm-hmm.
had, let's say, juice that you can dilute into water with water, right? And let's say you had 9 cups, and the first cup you put a little water into it, it will still maintain the potency. And then you keep going down in degrees, putting more and more and more water. By the time you get to the cup that is the lowest, or one, there's so much water in there that there's only a tiny trace of the original juice. So this is what we're saying. Like, you're starting with religions, right,
Mm-hmm.
which are they're very watered down, and as you're climbing up in more knowledge and more understanding, learning more facts, you start to make better decisions because you now have more information to make an informed decision. So eventually you're gonna outgrow religion and go to the facts. If you don't remain stagnant, or like you keep repeating the same class or the same, do you know what I mean,
Right. Same
over and
mistakes.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I realized that we are actually in agreement. Initially I thought that, it's absolute zero, zero tolerance, also ignoring the medicinal benefits that it may have. But I think your answer is saying, don't, overindulge, especially, or don't indulge, especially if you have a better alternative. But for those who do not have a better alternative, just like the guy who needs Christianity. There are a lot of people, like in that case, even close people, people who are close to me, I feel like sometimes they do need to, go to church in order to be, better, better people.
Right. But what I'm saying is, let's be clear that you can have people that have never ever been to a church or be a part of any religion that are good people.
Yeah, that are good people. Yeah, yeah. But you also have you have the opposite. You have varying degrees of people. It's just alarming that, I've looked down on religion for a while, but meeting individuals who actually need to be told, do not do this bad thing. They
Yeah,
need some
originally
kind of,
religion was actually a good
yeah.
thing. It was designed to keep, people in order and in check, and as a form of discipline. But over time, what happened is that it got kind of confused and messed up, and now people don't know what's right from what's wrong. And that's where the problem is, because, and when we say right or wrong, again, that you can say that's subjective, but in anything you're going to have the best or what's the most beneficial to you, and it's up to you. Like, we knowing we're the most, I would say, balanced because we've studied everyone's religion, we've lived those religions, so we can empathize with those who are still on that level, okay? But at the same time, we have graduated from those religions, and now we are here to give you the most authentic way of life if you choose to embrace and accept it. If you don't and you want to remain in religion, that's fine. In our documentary, we start off saying that Islam is beautiful for people, you know, for the Muslims. Christianity is beautiful for the Christians. But Wu-Sabat is ultimately what is for us and what we know to be the most efficient, productive, you know, for us and for us who are the original people on the planet. That's our way of life or our culture. I hope that helps.
It definitely does help. And one final question before I go.
Sure.
Is there like a Wu-Sabat organization in Africa? Because I've come to understand that Wu-Sabat, as you say, is for us the Netharu, and I think that means the black man, and Africa
No,
is
Natharu
pretty much
means
our home.
the overseers, right? Which is relating to our ancestors that are above and came down here from the planet Risk or constellations, which people know as the Orion and the Sirius constellations. It's not for black people, it's for humanity. However,
So
it's
Asians as well, like Chinese.
anyone who will accept and live the culture of Wu-Sabat are welcome.
Okay, so you just said that Islam is for the Muslim. I
Yeah.
think the question goes back to what is there for us melanated folks, because
Yeah,
we are
Wu-Sabat. But what I'm saying
also a
is,
group.
Wu-Sabat is our way. It's for us. But what I'm saying is that it's not just for us. It's for us. That's our way of life. But we share it, and anyone who would like to live that way is welcome to. But there are different degrees to it in terms of, learning how you evolved and what you may be able to ascend to as a nine ether being, because there are different levels of ether. Everyone comes from us originally anyway. So what I'm saying is that there are people who, no matter what you say, they're gonna remain and gravitate towards Islam, which we know it's an Arabian religion, or it's an Arabian prophet for his people of the Quraysh tribe. Or that's Muhammad I'm saying when I say his people. If you go and look at Christianity, Christianity is really originating from Greeks and Romans, and it's really for them, right? And so when you start to look at the different races on the planet, they have their culture and way of life. And us as the
Right.
original African people, we lost our way because we embraced and went into other people's ways, and then we were taught
And
their
is that
religions.
way that we lost? Is that way Wusabat?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, then it is our way, but we invite others, right? So
Correct.
it is our way. It is for us melanated folks, but we invite
Yeah,
others.
absolutely.
Okay, got it.
And
Got it.
in terms of being in Africa, we are worldwide, and there are, opportunities for, new temples, stores, communities to be, yeah, in Africa as well. So there's a lot of building going on, and it's all over the world, not just Africa. But if you'd like
I
to know
appreciate
where
that.
these locations are, visit the UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com, where you get, a list of the current locations.
Absolutely will do.
All right.
Definitely.
Appreciate, love your call, and keep probing, keep asking questions, because that's the best way to clarify and know exactly what we stand for, what we teach, and that's the best way to learn. To keep asking questions until it's clear for you. All All right.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Wadu.
Wadu. Okay, let's keep going with the questions in the chat, live chat. Okay, where was I? Okay, we've got Mechi Jones. You got another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Is that from TikTok?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Someone said, "Can you talk about the mothership?"
Oh
That
yeah,
was one.
yeah, because I was on that before the call came in.
And then you've got someone arguing that Dr. York never wore a double unk. So either one of those.
It's
you wanna
funny because,
talk about.
but okay, let me answer both of them. First one, as I was saying, a mother. When you say mothership, a mother gives birth, right? So when you say mothership, it's a ship that contains other ships. And in the Bible, they give you an example of such a ship. They call it the Crystal City, right? The Crystal City actually launches or comes out of a bigger ship which people call or know as Nibiru, right, from the Anunnaki doctrine. However, you've got crystal cities that also contain crystal cities. So yeah, that's what a mother ship is. It's a ship that contains other ships, and what people are going to say why. If you've ever watched Avengers or any of the current superhero movies, they show you, like even just like I think Air Force One or whatever, they have a ship that can have like cars and even on when you go on a ship as in on the ocean, right? You have ships that will take a car and then when they get to the other side, the cars come out of it. It's the same because some ships are too big to come into our solar system because they affect everything.
Someone there.
Okay, we've got a live call, so let me just take that and then we'll come back to you. Greetings, Rahubat. Who's calling? What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's your question?
Yeah, Rahul back there, my side. It's T from the UK.
Rahubat T.
Just nice one. Just a few questions there, if that's all right.
Sure. That's why we're here.
Cool. Nice one, thanks. Right, I just wanted to know what you know of for like. Okay, I was just doing a bit of research the other day on Egyptian mythology and stuff like that, and a few names come up.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Ptah. I've learned a little bit about that.
Right.
Thoth and somebody else called, is it Montu? So I just wanted to know if there's any relationship with them and just a bit of facts that you know.
Yeah.
And then also about the planet Mercury. And then there was just 3 gems that I was looking at the other day. One's called malachite.
Yeah.
One's called lapis lazuli, and one's called peridot. If you know any facts about those as well, please. And I'll leave you with that.
Wow. Okay, cool.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the first one, the word myth, right? When you say Egyptian mythology, it sounds like it's a myth because a lot of people don't really have the knowledge about ancient Egypt. In fact, when people see depictions of what they consider to be Egyptians with, like masks, they don't realize until you study, you don't realize those are masks. They think this is how the Egyptians actually looked. So people will say you're worshipping pagans and this and that and animals and so on and so forth because they didn't realize that those masks are just basically a depiction of their nature, so someone might have the nature of let's say a warrior, and they would be maybe like depicted as a lion, let's say, and a falcon, or different animal natures that relate to their nature in some way or form. It's only like when people who don't know about Egypt, they tell you the Egyptians were mysterious, the Egyptian mysteries. They don't know what they did and how they did it. They had all these rituals and certain things that they did, which to a lot of people were myths because, again, the distortion of the Bible and the biblical stories of Egypt, they tried to paint this picture of the Egyptians as being bad and making the Israelites in the Bible the good people. But then when you do your own research and study and you start to see that how can the Egyptians be the bad guys when they civilized the entire world, where they gave you knowledge of everything by way of, you also mentioned the person known as Thoth. That's the same person. These names were Greek names because when they went to study in Egypt, when I say they, I'm talking about all the so-called Greek philosophers, you know, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, name them. They all went to Egypt and studied under the great libraries in Alexandria and were initiated in some of these schools of learning, and they were taught certain things. It's just that when they then came back home or came back to Europe, they distorted it or made it out or hid what they learned and made it out as if it was them that originated it. So you will find a lot of the times when Europeans talk about, you know, you listen to many podcasts and the greatest of thinkers and minds, they will start to quote Greeks and the Greek this and the Greek that, but don't tell you that most of these people went to Egypt to study. There's a great book by a sister called Donna Davis that we've got available called Indigenously Black, which is on our website, that goes into more detail because, again, I'm conscious of time. I'm conscious about how many questions I've still got to get through. But yeah, so they made it into mythology, but it's not a myth, it's real. They just didn't understand or know how to interpret until the master teacher, Pana Babyanun, started to break things down, like from the hieroglyphics, because a lot of the writings are on the wall, but many couldn't decipher them to then know what was being said, or like certain things were passed down from mouth to ear through various initiations that you had to go through to be worthy to receive this information. What was the other question? You got to keep track.
Peridot, lapis.
Oh yeah, those are crystals, and again, the book I've mentioned, and even in our actual fact, tones, vibrational frequencies, DNA, tones, frequencies, DNA, and something along those lines. Can't remember the exact title. I don't have any scrolls with me today, mainly. But yeah, search that. That goes into the crystals, but there are various crystals that were used for different things. Like when you say malachite, you can actually hear the word Malachi in that. So again, crystals are very powerful because they stored a lot of information. They emit energy and vibration that can help you heal and align yourself. They do many, many things. And you are actually a crystal yourself. In fact, everything that you can find in the universe, you can find within self, because you are the universe, or that a universe, shall I say, because everyone is a universe, which makes us multiverses and omniverse when we put it all together, right? So as a universe, remember what I was saying, you're the center of your universe, and you have all the degrees around you, so everything is equidistant from you. So nothing would exist if you didn't exist. So that's why you are a universe. Then another person next to you would be another universe, so you become a dual verse, a triverse, or on and on to becoming multi, to becoming omni, right? So crystals are within you as well. They play a major part in terms of your brain functionality, in terms of when we travel interdimensionally and certain things like that. So different crystals were used for different things. You just happen to mention a few of those. What was the last?
And the last one was, what facts do you know about planet Mercury?
I mean, that kind of question you can literally Google. But obviously in ancient times, I mean, if you've got the holy tablets, the master goes in and breaks down all the planets. In fact, before the galaxy with our planets and where they came from and how they come to be. So it's a very broad question. You can literally Google and get just the basic facts about like the atmosphere and so on and so forth. But it's a broad question, and literally you can learn a lot from when we're not saying like don't use tools that are available like AI and Google and so forth, but you just have to be able to discern what is accurate from what is not accurate and be able to see the distortions. And that's why we are there to clarify or for you to kind of like check whatever information people are putting out there, because today everyone is a guru, everyone's a social media expert, everyone is giving out information, but which information reasons out or is sound, you know? And we have to always go back to the master teacher, because we know he's never ever let us down, right? In terms of nothing he has taught has been disputed or refuted in any way, shape or form. Of course, there will be those who will say, no, it isn't. And then they will present something and you decipher it and you realize, you know, it doesn't hold up as sound. All right, we were talking about the mothership. I did break that down. So you have ships that can't come into our close enough because they will affect, you know, the ecology of the planet, and they will affect the atmosphere and like cause tornadoes and earthquakes and, you know, some of the calamities we see on the planet, tsunamis. So they will stay far enough not to have an impact, but then launch from those mothership smaller ships which won't have that same impact to come into the atmosphere. So you'd see like the smaller crafts. And when we say crystal cities or planes or crafts, it's like today you will have an airline, right? You know, like British Airways or Virgin and all of that, and they have a fleet of crafts, bigger ones, smaller ones, some that travel a particular speed, etc., etc. So it's the same when you're dealing with these entities that are coming or able to travel intergalactically. They do have fleets of crafts for different purposes. All right, and what was that? What was about Nibiru? Well, Nibiru is, as I mentioned it already, it's an Anunnaki craft that originally came into our atmosphere and was responsible by way of an accident for hitting a planet that was known as Meldic at the time. And then by that accident happened to bump and hit our planet, which was at the time called Tamat. And you know, these names like Anu and the, you know, or Uranus, this was where the planets in our solar system were named after the you know, Anunnaki. So you had words like Shishki, you know, many names that were given Anunnaki names. Lahamu, like dealing with the moon, and Shishki, and then like Tamat. But these became known as Earth today because of the accident. All right, so Nibiru was responsible for that, and it's in an orbit that I think is like it's known as a Shah now. But yeah, Nibiru is a big mothership or craft that contains other ships, which contain other ships. Go ahead.
Is Anu the all or part of the all?
Anu is part of the all because the word Anu, being a Sumerian word, and was also translated into the Bible as Anu, A-N-O, as opposed to A-N-U. He was just the ruler at the time, the most high. That's what the word translates at, or the highest. And it's a title that has been held by many other people, just like we have titles like the president or the prime minister, and different people hold that position based on them being elected to that position, right? So Anu is a title, and there were many Anus that held that title, and it just means the most high. So be the most of anything means that you're being compared to others, or you have to win a competition or something that measures you, or there's a measurement that is used to determine you being the most high. So if you're being measured against others, then you are a part. So when we say the all, you are part of the all. And what happened is that you have certain beings that want to take over and take control or take positions, and they will fight or war or do anything to take a position that they may not be qualified for. So where you had a being known as Tarnosh, he's known by many names, but Tarnush, he wanted to take over not just the planet but the galaxy, or take over star systems, which caused wars. So a lot of people with ego, and they want to be the one, right? Even if they're not qualified or appointed to that position, they want to be in that position. So what ends up happening is you have people today that, instead of wanting to be a part of something, why not be a part of it? Why do you have to be the one, or the one that's in control or in charge? And that's where the whole thing about the all is, you are a part of the all, and the all is a part of you. You're connected to it, and we say it, but again, it's the limitations of English, but we are part of the all. Okay.
More TikTok.
More TikTok? Go on then.
Are you aware?
Sorry to you two, we're coming back to you in a minute.
Are you aware of 3 orbs in the sky that shift around and form pyramids? Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah, that's the tree. When you look at 3, you always have a pyramid, or what they say, a triangle. Anyway, there were many orbs, and actually that's quite interesting, because I was watching a movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still, and I think there are 2 versions, but the latest one was like in 1984 or something. Or 2008. Don't quote me on that, but check it out. And when you watch that, and then you go back and look at what was going on in 2024, you'll be amazed. Like, a lot of this information has been known for years. It's just that it's been suppressed or hidden, or people were just told, oh no, it's just a weather balloon, or some kind of excuse. And when you start to look at like the files now that are on YouTube dealing with UAPs, and the whole kind of disclosure now of government officials and people that are professionals, people that were flying jets and in the army, and people that were working in like Area 51, and a lot of people are now talking about these orbs, and even the crop circles, right? This is how a lot of people saw crop circles that were being formed by these orbs, right? You go back to any of our old books, like the master put out years ago, you see that symbol known as the tetrahedron. In fact, let me show you. Just grab it. Any of these old books, give me a second, I'm just trying to, there you go. Can you see that? That symbol there is known as the tetrahedron symbol, and you can see the triangle. This is how these orbs, in fact, this was a crop circle in Yorkshire in England. Google it, right? And the master was telling us and teaching us that this was the arrival of extraterrestrials, and what they do is it's an insignia, like a logo, to let people know from above or aerial view, right, where they are. It's like if you're trying to find somewhere, if there's a mark or a location, you say, give me a landmark. That's why they were doing this. Of course, there are fake ones as well that people will, like anything else, they will imitate and try to distort and set people off and confuse people. So you always had the real ones and you had the fake ones. But yeah, so those orbs, some people catch them now freely on cameras and stuff. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead. Any more TikToks? Okay, let's get back to YouTube. All right, so loads of questions to get through. Just give it all back. Yeah, start over with Wu-Sabat. Honor your soul. Learn the actual facts. Dr. Malachi Ziyok is our Jesus, Muhammad, etc. Nobody on the planet has translated, dropped half the knowledge. 100%. But yeah, don't. I love what you said, Michi. 100%. I'm in alignment. But we're not going to turn, because I just want to say this quickly. People replace religion with, like, they will look at, like, oh, like you just said, oh, the master is Jesus, and instead of the Bible, they also the holy tablets, and they literally try to transition but replace it so they're still stuck in the same mind frame. That's not what we deal with. We just deal with actual facts and yeah, basically the information. But that's a great point you've made, Michi. Go ahead, Zaman.
Please speak more about the dark. Can we see the nine ether realm in visible light spectrum?
Tua, you are it. This is what we're saying. Like, you are connected to everything. Look, if you shut off all the lights, yeah, you will still see in the dark. It literally takes a few seconds and your crystals, your eyes will just recalibrate, and then you will be able to see everything. You'll be able to see in the dark as nine ether beings, because you're going to say, where does that light come from? It comes from within you, because you have a light within you known as the solar plexus. And that's how you're able to like channel that, to use yourself as the torch to see where you're going. So nine ether is in everything, and in every, it's energy that surrounds everything, and everything is inside of it at different degrees or vibrations. The more you go higher or vibrate, you're going to be at its most potent form. But everything has ether. It's just that you have lower ethers and you have higher ethers, and we are connected by way of an etheric cord. But the thing is, not everyone can access. It's like you're in an office building or on a network, a computer network, and you connect to a server with your device or your laptop or PC or whatever. And when you do that, you get access to more information that's on the server. However, those servers can also connect to the internet, which is an network of computers around the world. So if you are connected to more, or like you're given permissions to access certain aspects, so you might work in finance, for example, and you get a shared folder where you access more information that's given to you because you are in finance. But when you open that up to the internet, you're dealing with a global network, so you have more information. So what we're saying is, you have an etheric cord that can connect you to the higher realms all the way up, but not everyone can get access to everything unless you vibrate on that vibrational frequency. Go ahead.
Where do dreams come from, and can they be tampered with?
Yes, dreams, there are different forms and different types of dreams. Some of it is just you replaying the things you've recorded. Remember I said your eyes are solar panels, right? So you can actually record, everything you see is recorded. And even when you think you're asleep, for example, you may have the TV on, and those images are being transmitted because you're dealing with light images that are coming, they're being transmitted and then being encoded and decoded for you when they arrive at the receiver. Yes, like radio waves. You've got many vibrations or frequencies that are around, and you just need the right device to be able to pick them up and to decode them, right? So you watch movies, you record everything you see, you record everything you listen to, and then when you go to sleep, you replay some of these images. That's what imagination is, images that you've stored. And then you also are able to travel when you're what you call asleep. So you can travel to different dimensions and experience different things. You have a counterpart that exists in the other dimensions or other realms. So you share information by way of the network I was trying to use as an analogy, but you have an etheric network that is connected to these realms. So you can experience and travel to different places, and sometimes, you know, there are different ways of traveling as well, right? So you can travel in terms of locally, like what people call astral projection, and you can travel in a form of remote viewing as well, what people term remote viewing. So there are many ways that you access what you're allowed to, and you have beings that reside on certain dimensions that will contact you if you're able to receive, because you are you're a trans it's like a transcender where you can receive and send information at the same time. And again, that actual fact I mentioned, DNA vibe. Let me find it because I keep messing up the title, and it's important that you get the correct title. So let me go to nashat.co.uk and search. I'm just going to search
Which one?
DNA or sound vibration frequencies. I'll search sound vibrational. There you go. Actual fact number 18. It's called tone, sound, DNA molecules, vibrational frequencies. That's why I kept messing it up. So it's a bit of a mouthful, right? Actual fact number 18. Tone, sound, DNA, molecules, vibrational frequencies. That will give you more information on what I'm talking about and how to tap in. What was it?
It was, can they be tampered with?
Yeah, it can be tampered with because there are beings that also travel or reside on these dimensions, and some of them will mess with you. It's just thoughts. Your thoughts are tampered with because, like, you'll be like, this is why you have to be aware, like when you're thinking, or you think you're thinking, but you might be thinking what somebody wants you to think by way of a thought can be transmuted, it can be sent, it can be received. It has a vibration, it has a color, it has a weight, you see. So you can receive because you are a receiver, like you're radio, like you literally receive and send. And so someone can tamper with your thoughts where you just walking about and you pick up a thought from the mental realm or from somebody locally thinking it, and then now you're distracted from what you were doing, and you're being tampered with. Or someone can send information. For example, I mentioned the TV, or the radio. You can fall asleep even if the TV is off. It's still able to receive vibrations and frequencies that can affect or tamper with you. So that's why you have to be aware at all times. All right, I think we need to get back to the YouTube. All right, let's keep going. All your questions are great, and thank you all for sending them in. And without your question, we wouldn't be able to do this, all right? Random person. I already answered that question about 3-Eye Atlas. In fact, we've done a video on it. So check that out on OSM Vision, and you'll get your answer. Okay, Rahubat and greetings to everyone joining us. Just want to acknowledge you and know that you're welcome. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to Jab the Caller. Does the Quran provide any guidance for you and adherents of Wu-Sabat? Yeah, we already said that. Just like any religion, or if, not even religion, a book, somebody can write a great book and you read the book and you get something from it. The Quran has some disciplines in terms of, like, you know, like some certain practices, but some of them are bad for you as well. So yes, there's, like we say with the Bible, there's literally like 10% or less value in it. So it's like, we don't dismiss that, but at the same time, it's like, if there's something better for you, we're not saying don't utilize the 10%. Like if someone, like we say, if someone teaches you, like, treat everyone the way you would like to be treated, it doesn't matter if that was in any book, right? But that's a valuable thing. Like, treat people the way you would like them to treat you, innit? So there is something in the Quran, because we walk through these books, the Quran, the Bible, name it. We've kind of been submerged in it. So yeah, it has some use, like the Bible has some use, but it's like literally about 10%. So then the 90%, you've got to, like, let me describe Wu-Sabat in another way relating to that question. If you took those 10% good things from the Quran and put it into a basket, you took the 10% from the Bible and put it into a basket, because what they were trying to do is convey to you the message that Wu-Sabat does and covers the rest of the 90% that you don't have. If you put that, all the facts, the truth from everything you study on the planet, whether it's science, anthropology, ecology, everything you can think of, if you study that and took all the truth, the facts, the things that are real and have been verified and confirmed to be true, if you put all of that in one, I just use a basket, but that's Wu-Sabat. Because Wu-Sabat addresses every part of your life. Whereas these books can only take you so far. They only address, they don't, when you start going into deeper subjects that they don't have no knowledge of or address at all, then they don't want to, they just go, you're crazy. Like extraterrestrials. It's like you start to talk about certain subjects that they don't know about. They can't take you further. Heaven, hell, all these terms they talk about, when you go into the detail, they can't follow us. So that's why we say, and people keep trying to, I suppose, keep us in these books, like, or keep, like, they don't want to let them go. So they will say, is it good? Can I read it? Can I hold on to it? Should I go to church? Should I go to the mosque? If you want to, but you don't need to, because you're going to get more from Wu-Sabat. 100%. All right, let's keep going. Oh, you got one, yeah? Go on then.
It says, is there a question you want someone to ask, but they have not asked it yet?
There's a million questions like that. But the thing is, we can't tell you unless you ask. And we can't know unless we study. And you won't know what to ask unless you study. So some things we would love to tell you, but this is exactly what we did with the master. The master was like waiting for us to ask certain questions. But we kept asking questions about the Bible and the Quran and religion. And he's like, I'm a galactic being. I've come here to give you all the answers you ever want to know about the universe and so much more. And you are here asking me about a bunch of dead people in a bunch of books that are dead. And like, I want to teach you how to levitate, how to, what's that one? Teleport. I want to teach you how to use your brain in a way that you're not using at the moment. I want to teach you higher sciences. I want to teach you about the universe, SIS. And you're here asking me about these books. Like, they only take you so far. So yes, there are questions we sometimes wish you would ask, because it shows, that's what he was doing, is like, it shows our intelligence. It shows if you're reading, it shows if you're studying, because now he can take us to a higher degree. So the ultimate question, when we showed him that we were ready to move away from religion, was, who is God? And then he put out a whole series of books on the matter of God. And he was like, now you're ready, because you've gone past looking at God as a separate entity from you that is unreachable. And so he wrote a whole book series called the God series, such as this one that I've just picked up. What is God doing for you? That's the title. Most of the titles of the books come from questions. Let me read a little bit, just because you asked. What is God doing for me? This is a question that every imam, reverend, sheikh, rabbi, or any God-fearing man and woman should ask. Why? Just look at the state of the world and the conditions your children are in. They're smoking, drinking, taking drugs, fighting, killing, becoming hip-hoppers, headbangers, heavy metalists, punk rockers, joining gangs, and getting into everything you can possibly conceive as being an abomination or evil. Many die as a result, and you just fall to your knees saying God, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, or whatever name you call on. Why? Why, my baby? If I'm doing everything you told me to do, I devoted my whole life to you. I pray every day. I give you everything I have. I follow your laws and commandments, and I attend all the meetings. God, why? What am I doing wrong? And there's another book called Does God Help His Own? Right? And then it carries on. Yet this question, what is God doing for me, is considered by religious people a blasphemous question. So I ask you, just what is God doing for you? A simple question that should be able to be answered simply. All of the promises that the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran gives for those that follow these books strictly. If you say you are a devoted Jew or Israelite or Hebrew or Christian or whatever denomination and Muslim of whatever sect, should be receiving these blessings. If not, I simply ask, why not? By that I mean, why is it that the dope dealer down the block lives better than you, the God-fearing? Why is it that his children will follow in his footsteps and become criminals, but your children don't want to follow in your footsteps and become God-fearing? Refer to whose God is responsible. There's another book from the series. Why doesn't God do this for you? I'm just giving you a little excerpt. That's how powerful these books are, because you have to question God. So when we asked him about who is God, he was like, you are now ready to go to the next level. So we took the mask off, started to expose God in terms of questioning him. Why this? Why that? Why does he do this? Why does he do that? And then you realize, like I said earlier on, this God is not what you think. These gods are these Elohim, Anunnaki, Yahweh, Adonai, all these names. These are different characters, extraterrestrials that have multiple personalities, which is why it would seem like God is, it's just like a schizo. One minute he says do this, and then next minute he's saying don't do it. You know, and you might look at that like, oh, you're being blasphemous. No, when you start to look at his actions and really question, it doesn't make sense. But I don't want to stay on this God thing too long, because like you say, the questions you ask have to rise above the God complex. All right, let me get through questions because we got so many. In the perfect world, is all race supposed to come as one, or each race supposed to unified within their own? Well, again, it says, I made you into tribes to know of each other, but not to mix, right? But by now, everyone is mixed. So much mixing has taken place, so much confusion and chaos because of religion, of beliefs. And so, yeah, in the perfect world, those who apply Wu-Sabat would live peacefully, and like those who don't, this is why you had different zones in the past. You had a zone known as the green zone, where those, I mean, it kind of becomes today good and bad, or agreeable, disagreeable, positive, negative, where it's like having a community of people who live in a particular way and they get along, respect each other, live in peace. And then you have another group where we was called the red zone, and that was really because those who came and violated the harmony and the sanctity and the peace of the green zone had to be put into a place where it was like, okay, you lot stay over there, the green zone, the red zone. And then what happened? The green and the red zone invaded the green zone and crossbred and mixed, and then there was confusion because now you have people that are in the red zone where they don't want to be or don't belong, and you had people in the green zone that don't belong there, and that's chaos because everyone is confused and there's too much competition. So like Africans for Africans, European or Europe for Europe, because really your conditions, this is the whole point of why if you can't live under the sun or live under a certain climate, you're going to move from there because you're going to feel uncomfortable. So you would move to the mountains or somewhere where it's cooler so that you don't have to be subjected to being burnt or receiving like cancer from being burnt by the sun. You see, so if you don't have the right skin suit to be in the right environment, it's not going to be comfortable for you. So, you know, read between the lines. Okay, let's keep going. Change is supreme in the universe. Absolutely. Saket Ra. Does their story say Lucy was half ape? Yeah, because that was until, this is from Big Sister, that was until the human genome was actually completed. It's a project, right? And then, you know, DNA and races, because anthropologists are always trying to study, and before they were able to break it down and see that different people and their DNAs come from a particular strand, everyone used to think, oh, we all come from monkeys or we all evolved from monkeys. But no, that was really dealing with the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon, right? And then you'll have another strain which is dealing with, and that would be Europeans, right? Then you had the Asians, which would be the Denisovan and the Homo florensis, and then you got the Homo naledi or what's the other one?
Habilis?
That's it. Thank you. You're studying Homo habilis. You see, this is how Wu-Sabat is. Once you learn, it just becomes a part of you. So yeah, now they realize that not everyone comes from a particular strand or trait. The scroll Ancient Egypt and the pharaohs. Okay, wait, I've skipped one. Gosh, I want to. People that have already asked questions I've answered. I want to try and give other people a chance to get their questions answered. So I'll reverse back to you, Pharaoh, because you've asked about 2-3 questions I've answered already. So let me keep going. The scroll Ancient Egypt and Pharaoh says the 23 elders experiment in Egypt was the cause of Earth's tilt on its axis from 90 degrees to 23 degrees and land masses shifted. Is this correct? What was the purpose? Yeah, the shift from the 23 or to the 23 degrees was mainly due to that incident I mentioned about Nibiru hitting Meldek and then hitting Tamat. And then because Tamat had to be terraformed and then put back, it was now on a 23 degree axis. And when you're saying about the elders were helping to repair it, and that's why most people on the planet today now are right-handed. You know, before you were, when it was balanced and not on the 23 degree angle, we were ambidextrous, which meant that everything was aligned. You use both hands. You know, you could write with both your hands. Your brain was, everything was equal. But now you look at people, they have, if you draw a line, a symmetrical line on your face even, and look in the mirror, you see that you're developed more on your right hand or the left hand. There are some left-handed people, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about the majority on the planet are right-handed, and you lean and put your weight more on your right hand side. So your eye will be slightly smaller or bigger on one side, and the same with your nose. And that was because of that shift. And now most people were using their right hand as opposed to both right and left. If you study the ancient languages or the scripts, such as the hieroglyphics or the cuneiform, you see that they're written in a way which would show you that you're ambidextrous. So you can read up, down, down, up, left, right, right, left, because you could do that and write with both. So yeah, that's what happened to cause that from the 90 degree to the 23. But now the shift has taken place, and if you read Planet Earth's Woman, which is a part of that, and another actual fact, I think it's ontologist. Yeah, that goes ontologist. Let me find it. That also goes into the shift that's taken place to bring it back to its original form. Why now a lot of resources, Egyptian ontology or mythology, and Nuwapians ontologist of time. Both of these, actual fact number 30 and number 13, can be found on the nashat.co.uk site. Yeah, but that is why that happened, and now it's shifting back into that original 90 degree, and why oil and certain things are shifting back to Africa, where it was like in Saudi Arabia and places like that. Now you're finding a lot of oil and certain resources being found in Africa. All right. Yes, big sister, who tips? So Earth is a school. Yes, Earth is a school for you to learn and graduate. And the Bible is, like we say, the acronym is basic information before leaving Earth. So you have to master that, move on to higher sciences, study other things, especially the doctrine of Wu-Sabat. Let's keep going. There used to be VHS tapes of Egypt story. It was animated, but the characters were all black. I can't find these Bible VHS tapes anymore. They were around in the late 2000s. I'm not sure which ones you're referring to, but a lot of things have been digitized now. So you may find them on YouTube, or I don't know who you're referring to that produced them. But if it's us, give us the references and we'll look into it. Mindful genetics. Greetings. Why were the dinosaurs made, and where were we as people when this happened? That's all in the Holy Tablets. But the evolution of the planet, many beings were on the planet at different times. And like when something happens, extinction comes, right? Meaning that, for example, when you study the dinosaurs and what happened, they show you the movies Jurassic Park and all that, but you had the meat eaters and the herbivores, which were the herbs. They ate vegetation, and there was an imbalance, and the elders had to make them extinct because they were eating the humans as well. So like anytime they get to a point where cycles have to change and new cycles come in, which is what we're going through right now, where if there's too much chaos on the planet and it's causing imbalance, which can then affect other planets in the solar system, which can affect different galaxies, etc., then the elders step in. When we say Natharu or Pan Natharu, we're saying the overseers. They oversee all and keep things in check and in order, so they don't just deal with. We are so preoccupied with our one planet. Everything revolves around us, and even then we don't even think about other beings on the planet that live in the deep seas, on the planet, on land, in the air. We're just so preoccupied with us as humanoids or humans, and we think we're so intelligent when there are other life forms that are far more intelligent than us. But I'm saying that to say that they don't just focus on our planet when there are gazillions of planets throughout the cosmos. So it's like maintaining order, and like you may not know how what we do affects other planets or other galaxies or the universe. So they have to make sure everything is in order. That's why you have to be taught to be a being that recognizes and exists in order, as we have ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, ancient Egyptian order. The universe, the planets, everything has an order that's supposed to be, but chaos comes in when people go out of order or against the order of things, so they have to bring it back. So in terms of that, that's how, you know, early man was around, but they were so passive, they were being eaten by the eaters of the dinosaurs. Okay, let's keep going. So the question was, why were the dinosaurs made? Where were we as a people? Okay, yeah, we were early man, as in the Pataites. Oh yeah, that was the other question I kind of didn't touch on when T called. Ptah is that being, the opener. He's like the first, the one. It's like, if you think about consciousness, like now everyone's becoming conscious, but there had to be one person who was first, and that's where Parnababyanun, or Ptah, who sits in that seat of recycling, excuse me, starting a new cycle over. He opened the way, like, so he opened the seventh seal, which was, okay, we're in a new cycle, we need to now open the seal to release information that has been locked away or sealed away for so long. And from that, he started to pour information to the world. Then it was the same one that was like from the year 2000. Now we're going to the sun cycle. So I'm going to open the way, you know. And it's like he made a joke on one of the recordings where he was saying, you know, in Planet of the Apes, he would be that first ape that spoke first. So yeah, that relates. There's so much more to it, but Ptah is that opener. So yeah, so let me just keep going. Our on YouTube, Brusca Noise on YouTube now, explorers found a humanoid being in Antarctica, showed him pictures of pyramids in Egypt. His response was Saken, which they have mistranslated as old friend. What does Saken mean? Saken means power. But by the way you're spelling it, it's really Sakem or Sakam, okay? Which, that's why the tones of language is an important, power. But when you say power, that ties into the word potent or potential. And who has the most potent information? So it means power, all right? Let's keep going. Marceliana Williams. Hello, it's me again, the herbalist. Rahubat, why can't most of us give up weed and Jesus and KFC? It's an addiction, and what happens, you can, but what happens is you're succumbing to the devil nature in you. You have a godly nature and you have a devil nature, and it's like the two sides, as I was just saying before. You have the red zone and the green zone. Like, people do things when their mind mentally is not functioning properly, because your actions are a result of your thoughts, how you think. So you have to be able to overcome or override the thoughts that are keeping you doing the things you know are not good for you or bad for you, or that are bringing you down in terms of a vibration. So most people have been programmed, and these thoughts create grooves, right? They create grooves in your mind. So it's like it's etched in or scratched in, where it becomes more permanent. And the more you succumb to that, the more that groove is kind of like stuck. It's like if you don't succumb to it, this is why we are mental beings. You can reside in the mental realm where you are focusing and like you're reasoning. Reasoning is a higher form of thinking. So you may get a thought. Somebody else asked a question earlier on about their thoughts. Are they tampered with? Yes, by the media, by the influences, by the people that are around you, the people that whisper in your ear, your ancestors that you're hearing in your radio, in your head, constantly whispering suggestions and telling you do this, do that, do this. You go on social media, you've got someone telling you do this, do that. But is it conducive for your well-being? So what you have to do is, we have, ironic, like I say, there's no question that people ask that the master hasn't addressed: the mind. You have to work with your mind to the point where you get a thought and you process it, because your brain is that central processing unit that deals with how you decipher and break down information, and then you act on that information to the point where you then do the right thing or the wrong thing or nothing at all, right? So when you say people don't give up things, because, like, for example, you put things into your mouth every day. Everyone puts something into their mouth every day. If you're dealing with food, right, you're eating things based on the programming of taste. If things are sweet or have salt, you eat for taste as opposed to for nutrition or for what it's going to give your body fuel, or your mind or your brain fuel that it needs to operate at its highest optimum productivity and efficiency. Now, if you're doing that, then you're not exercising your brain to do the right thing. So when you say, why can't most people give up weed? It's because it's an addiction. Jesus is an addiction. KFC is an addiction, because they put things that, like I said, the salt, the sugar, the things that you think taste nice. So you're eating something which has little or no nutritional value, that's going to clog up your system and it's going to make you unhealthy or sick. But you still eat it anyway, because the programming, you've been doing it for so long, over and over and over again, that it becomes automatic, to the point where people like don't have to, like the movie They Live. You know how much you have to fight to put those glasses on so that you can see clearly, right? And when you see clearly and you start, go back and watch that movie They Live. That was in 1984 or something. Like, when you watch it now, you're like, wow, even back then you were being told this information that is now becoming commonplace. So yeah, you have to deal with you rising and developing your God side to the point where you're acting and behaving like a supreme being that is processing information mentally to say to yourself, I'm about to do this thing, but I know I'm not going to do it. So you control it. Or I'm hearing this thought. It might be some of your disagreeable ancestors within your 29 or less personalities that are trying to utilize your vessel in this physical world to experience things that they no longer have access to. And people say, how can they do that? It's energy and vibration that you're feeding into those other realms. Like you emit and give off certain energies when you do certain things, and they like that, or they benefit from that. Some beings are elemental beings. They suck the energy up that you generate. If it's anger, they might feed off of that vibration of that frequency. So they will agitate you constantly to be angry. Some people are just always angry. They can't control their anger or their temper. Some people are just on a low vibration. You know, just moaning, complaining all the time. Other people are more optimistic, vibrant, positive, looking forward to making changes in the world for the better for humanity, etc., etc. So you have to really be able to study yourself and decipher your thoughts, right? And then the God in you overrides that by the habit. So you can go, I'm not going to eat KFC anymore. And you just stop. Or wean yourself off until you stop. All right, let's keep going. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on OSM Vision so that you never miss a beat. Okay, let's keep going. Virgin Island. Rahubat Moisa, much shook and peace and unity. Rahubat, I don't know if it's Zamal or Zamaltat, but Rahubat. Yes, frozen. Stream frozen for me. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, someone was saying this today was frozen. Okay, we fixed it. Okay, let's look at what else we have. Trevor. Rahubat, watching from Eastern Cape Province. I don't know how to pronounce that. Do you know how to pronounce that? Gaberha?
Where's that one?
Trevor from Eastern Cape Province of... Welcome aboard, welcome, watching from all over the world. Great. Yellow Woman. Good evening. I've started reading The Mind and the second page says put you back on the right path as we together through the Lord Jesus, Son of God, find our way to the Father. Who are they then? Good question. These books are actually going back to the time we were going through the schools of religion. So, like we were saying earlier on, we were being weaned out of these books and being taught to use our minds. I'm on page 2. I'm trying to see where you're saying
Eastern Cape Province of GKDBARHA.
that made it even worse. Yeah, AI doesn't know everything. Let me read page 2. King of Kings of the noble Quran, who is El Ilo Anu Allah Yahweh also God to many, all within the all. Within the confines of these pages you shall embark upon the knowledge, the wisdom and the understanding of the mind, which is working with the brain and the nervous system. 3 out of your whole body, 1 mind, 2 brain, 3 nervous system, and that's your being. 16, the brain is one of the most intricate of organs within itself. 17, and was created by God. This knowledge that I am giving to you has never before been taught to you by any. 19, remember my dear companion, in the right knowledge and right wisdom you receive the right understanding. 20, and get right reasoning overall. This is the science of your way of life, which are the facts of life. 22, let me begin by giving you the nature of the Homo sapien, who is the mortal man, the human being known as people, the human animal, the children of Enos, the son of Seth, Genesis 4:25 to 26, who is called in tones the noble. I've read the whole of page 2, so I'm not sure. Let me read the question again. But anyway, I can answer the question. You said, good evening, I started reading The Mind, and the second page says, oh, you said the second page, not page 2. So my bad. Right. Let me go back to the second page. Okay, this is the second page. I don't see what you're saying, but let me keep going. Or do you mean... I mean, look, I've gone through more pages and I don't really see... But anyway, let me answer the question. Yeah, so during the School of Religion, we were being weaned out of it. So some of the terms and things you may hear have now been clarified. And that's why when you read any of our books, we encourage you to come to class or join the Telegram group, which I haven't mentioned today actually, but the link is in the chat, the Telegram group, so you can actually get clarification, because remember that the master teacher was teaching from the 60s. You hear different people say different dates, but really from 62, 63, by 67, you know, he was teaching close people, family, etc. And then officially, he opened the seventh seal in the 70s, in 1970. And then from that period to now, you're talking about over 50, nearly 60 years of information. And we went through different schools. Religion was, you know, the different schools of religion. So newcomers today, we will recommend or quote books that are before the year 2000, which we know have expired because we've moved on to like Wu-Sabat in terms of wu-nuwapu being more clear and more information. So newcomers might go and watch a video on YouTube that was posted 20 years ago. Although there's still valuable information, you may hear references to the Quran, to the Bible, to Islam, to Christianity, and you say, oh, you guys are Christians. During that time, we were going through those schools, so we had to read those books, quote the scriptures in those languages and those books. So, but the information, Wu-Sabat was still embedded, wu-nuwapu was still embedded within those books, so that by the time we got to where we're, like I said, walking backwards to our culture, things are more clear. Now we can clarify things. So if you were reading and we were saying, I knew the Most High, where by the time we came out of the schools of religion in terms of the monotheistic religions and then go, okay, this is where they come from, and went into the Anunnaki stories, Anu was now made clear. But in the Bible, you're just referring to him, as I just read, yeah, as Yahweh, Elo, etc. So, yeah, you're El Elo, Anu, Allah, Yah, Yahuwah, Theos, God, many names. So by the time we were in the Anunnaki or the Sumerian schools, we then opened the mask of Anu and went deep into Anu, and then we moved on from that. So today we can still clarify things, but yeah, it's a good question, and it's talking about the stories of those people that you're referring to as Jesus, or the Father. Like I said, Jesus would be Tammuz, or would be, depending on which, you know, culture, it will be Horus, or it will be Hara in ancient Egypt, or, you know, depending what names you know, in, like I said, Tammuz in Sumerian, all right? And then the Father would be, again, depending on which language, Adonai, or it might be Anu, as we just said, or the Muzi. It depends on the culture. So, yeah, those terms were used just for those are on that level, but as you probe further, we clarify things. Okay, let's go. I need to ask Ken about the relationship between Pleiadians and Asians, because the complexion seemed to be the same. All right. Okay, that's a good question, because in every race, you have different variations or shades of complexion, right? So even if you took, say, what people call us or consider us to be black, you can find all different shades of the darkest to the lightest. And it's the same in other races. And when you look at the root races on the planet, the Negroid or the black African race would be first. And then if you look at an Asian, they also have dark skin or complexion, but there's a distinct difference between them and us, which is their wabar, or farah, shall I say, right? Which is their, what people call hair or fur. We are the only ones with hair. And so you might look at two people, but one is dark and the other is dark, but the hair is different. When you look at a Caucasian, so that's African to Asian. Then when you look at a Caucasian, you look at an Asian and look at a Caucasian and you say, what's the difference between them? You see that they both have the hair, as in 6 ether hair, straight flank hair, and the complexion's now different. So you can see we've gone from Nagaru to Asian to Caucasian. That's why you even hear the word Asian, because Caucus Asian or Caucasian was grafted or drawn out of the Asian. So now when we go to the extraterrestrials, you'll have the same thing when you're saying the relationship between the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians would be the fathers of the Caucasian because they grafted them and in their image and in their likeness. That's what the Bible is really conveying. The grafting of the Adamites, which was only 6,000 years ago. So it's a specific group of people that were grafted by the genetics or the image and likeness of the Pleiadians. When you're saying the Asians, and you said that between the Pleiadians and the Asians, it's because, as I said, those Asians were utilized to graft the Caucasians. So there are like different processes or steps to get to where we are. So yeah, that's what's happened. The relationship is on the planet, everyone has their roots in an extraterrestrial origin. So we're in the image and the likeness of Parnatharu, which becomes Natiru in ancient Egypt, which ties into the word nature, right? So that's us. Then you will have the Caucasians who have their roots as well with the Dravidians, and tying back to what we say they come from, like places like Nirvana, and they became the Hindus on the planet. And then you have the Caucasians tying into the Pleiadians, or those beings like the Ashtar Command who came here. So everyone on the planet is related to their genetically to their ancestors or their origin. Okay, let's keep going. Excuse me. Okay, let's keep going. So here we go. We've got another question from Claudia. Warm greetings, teacher. Question: where is memory stored, brain or mind? And also, is the pineal gland used to access the mind? Yes. You as a being are composed of the same elements on the higher vibrations. So the simple way to explain it is like density, and then you have matter, then the matter becomes atoms, the atoms become your organs form your body at different vibration or density levels, right? But when we say, in fact, watch that video, enlightened, or you need to be darkened instead of enlightened, right? Watch that video because we go into this. So your cells record and store. So when I gave the example earlier on about you being connected to a network of, say, a server, and then that server is connected to many servers or to the internet, you're able to pull and draw information by way of, as I said, your connection to these higher realms. Your brain is just a physical tissue, and your mind is where you're connecting from you to that mental reservoir, and you're pulling information from there to store. Okay, going back to my analogy of your device or the computer, so you can pull information and store it locally on your, your laptop, tablet, device, which was somewhere else, as in on the internet. So someone can send you a file, you can take that file, you can leave it in the cloud, as they say. That's actually interesting that they'll give you that analogy where they say it's in the cloud. most people think a cloud is like, up there in the sky, isn't it? But they're literally showing you how you're able to connect to a reservoir or somewhere where information is stored. And if you choose to, you can pull it down and it's retained there. But if you delete it from your local storage, you can pull it down again. So when you're saying the question, where is the memory? Memory, you have different types of memory. Yeah, you have something called conscious memory, which you're aware about. Just like following on from my analogy or example, you have a memory that you're storing in your local device and you're aware of it. You have subconscious memory, which is memory that is sub or hidden or is in a different location. And then you have superconscious memory, which is you being able to tap into the higher realms. And relating this to the cloud, it's like people say the Akashic records or the Akasha records where everything is stored. And the master teacher has put out a master secret called the Akasha records. So you can pull things and store it within your being because you're really dealing with light information because you're a light being, which we call an Etherian. So you have an etheric part to you dealing with ether that you can draw and pull information and store. So information can be stored in your cells. It can be stored in the memory that I've just spoken about. And what's the last part of that? Your brain is just the tissue that allows you to connect and your brain is powered by electricity and energy that also ties into your etheric body, your etheric cord, connecting you to the higher realms where people say your higher consciousness. And that's what Wu-Sabat does. It helps you to start to use more of your brain, tap into your higher conscious so that you can pull information from these, what people will refer to as the Akasha records. All right. Yeah, and your pineal gland is the mechanism that is utilized to make that connection along with the pituitary gland. And this is why they try to damage it or maim it by things like adding fluoride to toothpaste and fluoride to water. And fluoride is one of those things that will will kind of like cause it to not be as active as it is supposed to be. Okay, that was Claudia. Okay, another question from Trevor. Although Yakub, the scientist, has created them, I would like to know about their dominance in their constellation. Are they maybe behaving on the same basis as Caucasians do here on Earth? Yeah, because like I keep saying, you were created in the image, so that's how you look, but your nature is in the likeness of the beings that you are created in. So you have to just look at your nature. So yes, that's why I say if you look at the people on the planet, and especially those in religion, because religion is the way they affect you emotionally and get you to behave and think that if you do this, you have a moral compass of if you do this, you're good and you're going to heaven. If you don't do it, you're bad, you're going to hell. And so people do things and behave in a way that actually doesn't make sense when you examine it. Like trying to fight for their gods, and trying to win arguments all the time and trying to be right and trying to, you can't fight for your God if he's most powerful. Why can't he do his own bidding? Like, why does he have to send his son to come and do stuff that he can do himself? These are the types of questions when you start to probe, you realize that people are behaving in a way that doesn't make sense. You can't be you know, tying, say, a bomb to yourself and saying you're doing this in the name of your God, and then, you know, unaliving yourself and people when your God has the power to do that without you having to go through that. So it doesn't make sense. Okay, let's go. The gentleman spoke of dreams made me realize that just I dreamed of the same dream multiple times again, not once, not twice, on one night. I don't know what that means, and for that matter, I have tendency of forgetting my dreams, but this one keeps on resuming as if it was on pause. I don't know what really happened. Right, I didn't finish that answering that question. We don't go and interpret people's personal dreams. That's for you. However, like I was saying, there are different types of dreams. You have dreams that are just things that replay, and you have dreams that are messages. When I say replay, like the ones I said, like from things you've stored in your subconscious, and you need to purge them and get rid of them. So you kind of like, that's the one of the ways to filter them out. But you also have those dreams that are messages that are being given to you for you specifically. It may be something from your ancestors or someone that's crossed over that you're connected to, that they're trying to give you a message. So there are dreams that are messages just for you. And then you have things like visions or messages that are given to you for humanity or for other people. And in terms of the actual specifics of it, details of it, that is for you and whatever's going on in your life and your experience. And you say you forget them. So we suggest that you have a notepad or a notebook based on what we were taught by the master teacher, Partner Babyanun, Dr. Malachi Z. York, to have a notepad and record and write your dreams when you wake up, because you forget after a while, because this goes back to what I was saying about your conscious, subconscious, superconscious memory and mind, and also your counterpart, because sometimes your counterpart will remain, it's like they will keep information that is relayed to you later. So when you're awake, they're asleep. When you're asleep, they're awake. But the two of you share information on your network, right? So sometimes you will have a dream, and then they continue that dream when you are awake, and then when you go back to sleep, they share that information with you, and you kind of like continue the dream. Watch the movie Inception. Inception.
Dream, yeah.
Yeah, that talks about dreams, because you can have a dream within a dream within a dream. And yeah, some people have had that experience where you're dreaming about you dreaming about something, or you know. But yeah, it's for you to figure out. And if you record it, after a while you can look at what's been going on in your life before that dream started reoccurring, during and afterwards, when it actually stops. And you may be able to put the pieces together by connecting the dots of what the message is for you. All right. You actually carried on. I feel like something that was done to me over that dream. Not sure if it was a revelation, but something was up, even if I don't know what really happened. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By recording it, eventually you work it out. Next question. OSM. At OSM, I want that power, but I'm thinking it might mash my head up.
He's talking about reading women's minds.
Oh, yeah, that's why great power comes with great responsibility. You know, that's why Superman, although he has that X-ray vision and everything, he knows how to only use his power when it's necessary. That's what we're saying, that you have to be in order, you have to be raised, you have to be taught how to utilize your power. Should we, class conversations, greetings from US New Jersey. Should we expect any major weather events as we near the new beginning? Yeah, weather is always a way of you knowing and telling you what's going on. That's nature. So we should be in tune with nature so we know what's happening and why it's happening. If you are, you see that animals, they know ahead of time. They start moving away in a direction and you're thinking, why are they all going in that direction? Because they know something's coming from that direction. Birds do this, so we should also be in tune with nature. But as far as the details of certain things, you have to study. And this is something, wow, we're coming to the end. We only got like 6 minutes left, but we cannot emphasize enough that you need to read the scrolls and study, because you're gonna get the magic. The magic is in the scrolls. And sometimes people don't listen to us and they do their own thing. They think they can just skim, as people say. They just skim it as opposed to reading and studying. Of course, OSM Vision is here to give it to you visually, but don't become lazy unless you have some sort of ailment that prevents you from reading. But yeah, you need to read to get the information, and more importantly than reading is to be a part of the community, because you get updates and you get information that's not always publicly shared. So go to your local stores, go to your local community, and participate. Stop being a spectator. Okay, we're coming to the last few questions. If this being found in the Antarctic called out Saken after showing the pyramids, do you think he watches OSM Vision, the episode we did about the pyramids? Listen, there's so much to be unveiled. The Antarctica and all of that, there was a lot of information, as you know. We did an update already about beings that make it and can be taken there to get their barothry gland reactivated or inserted. Hitler was in the Antarctic like years ago, extraterrestrials. It's going to be more and more apparent to many people that extraterrestrials have been on this planet, running this planet for the longest time. Okay, let's keep going. Trevor, Wu-Sabat is also practiced in Africa. It's a culture. Credo Mutwa African calendar. Yeah, that was the Dogons dealing with their part of what they knew and the knowledge that they were given, which, obviously was way before the European had apparatus to know about, Sirius B. But we go into it more detail in the Holy Tablets, talking about Sirius A, B, C, how it collapsed and what was the reason and why we had to evacuate and come here, etc., etc. So yes, African culture is Wu-Sabat. But nowadays, when people say African spirituality or African culture, and they tie to different aspects of the culture, that some of it is not authentic or has been watered down or diluted, we bring it all back to one by way of Wu-Sabat. So, yeah, let's keep going. Arman Dixon, Rahubat, thank you for all you are doing. I've noticed that everything here in this dimension follows the daisy of death. Yep, the Fibonacci base 10 addition, the sickness of death. Yeah, because it's all cycles. And that's where people have been tricked to think that things are linear and they move in straight lines, like start, end, beginning, end, alpha, omega. It's not that way. It's a spiral, and that's why it reflects in nature, as you have said. And things are in cycles. Even us just dealing with, we think Tuesday is gonna come next week, but it's a cycle. Same time, same place every week, unless we step outside of that circle for a minute, but we join it. But yeah, you're right. Everything in nature spirals, and that's why people saying the straight lines, it's not really it, because everything curves. A curvature or circle, because it's a cycle. You're right. Even like you said, sickness, death, born, but there's a way of breaking that cycle, so you move to the next level higher. Yeah. So if you think of a winding staircase, okay, you can go back down, you can go up, you can keep going up, and depending on how far it goes, you're literally unraveling from that original first step, or that dot known as the nukta, then the cat, that first dot that started the spiraling to go on to where we are today. Why they like to look back into the universe to see if we are here, where it came from, how did it start to expand and expand. So they use telescopes like the James Webb telescope to look back now, and they're able to see more into the universe. Part of the reason how they even spotted what they're calling three-eye atlas, and they say it's not free falling, just like they said in Nibiru or Rilo. They call it, I think it was Rilo 7 or Rilo 9, I can't remember, but you can check it. They said it has, because if you study meteorites and study things in the sky, you find out that if something is just free falling, it doesn't stop, it doesn't change course, it doesn't change its trajectory. So they can say like it's being controlled. I'm trying to find that. Was it Rilo? I just spell it 7. Yeah, Rilo 7 planet. They that's what they. If you Google Rilo, likely refers to either a camera or a character. There being no established planet. Okay, forget that. But that's one of the names or terms that they were referring to Nibiru, or they call it Planet X, or the lost planet. And yeah, so you're right. You're right about that cycle. So I'm still searching to see if I can find anything. Yeah, that goes back a long time ago. If anyone's got information in it, post it in the chat. But there were many names that Nibiru was referred to as. And okay, last 2 questions. We've run out of time already. The 369666 trap, etc., taken from something to produce something, but it all seems to be mirroring the true flower of life, math, or doubling. Okay, that's an extension of that question we just covered. But yeah, that's why we say the numbers 369 are very significant. Yeah, I hope this makes sense, but can you give us example of thinking or doing things that are based in doubling and not in the addition? Right, this is why we talk about 9 ether, 9 to the 9th power of 9, and 9 being the highest number. But when you really look at it, you're going from 0 to 9. If you really look at that, you're looking at a spiral. A 0 is a spiral. The 9, if you look at it, is a spiral going outwards. And even if you were looking at it from the adverse, it will be a 6, but that's still a spiral. So if you look at 3, you have to go from 3 to 6 to 9. So if you add 3 plus 3, you're going to get 6, which is adding 2. Now, because you're spiraling outwards, you're actually increasing or adding from where you started. You're growing, right? That's growth. If you want to go to 9, instead of adding 3 plus 3 to get 6, you're going to multiply. Multiply is to grow it even more. So you go 3 times 3, you get to 9. So that's why 3, 6, 9 are so important. When you study our online course, the Fast Track Your Spiritual and Conscious Journey, right? We have the online course. There's a chapter in there that goes into the 3, 6, 9, and you look at the mathematics and the things that Nikola Tesla was talking about. A lot of that was based on this principle of 3, 6, 9. And when you look at 3 is significant because, excuse me, you have 2 points, right? Because there's always 2 points, right? Good and bad, up, down, hot, cold, etc. But there's a middle point that determines where one stops and where the other one begins, and they just come back around. So there's a cycle. But that middle point gives you the third point, where you'll have the 3 points to give you the pyramid, or we say triangle, okay? But then that's one dimension of a triangle. But yet you can put a, you can make it into a 3 dimension, and then if you multiply the dimensions, you're gonna get to higher dimensions. So yeah, the 3, if you see, the 3 points, double them gets you to the 6, you triple it, you get to 9. So that's why we say you have a 3 in the physical, you have a 3 in the spiritual. And 3, double it, you get 6, another 3, you get 9. And then you triple those and you just keep going further and further till you get to the point of 9 to the 9 power of 9. And the last question for today, how to say free in Wu-Sabat. The Wu-Sabat changes all the time, but we will say kafush, free. In fact, we have an app, right? I know we've gone over time by 5 minutes, but we're almost done. Join the Telegram group so that you can actually learn more than what we're able to do in the few hours that we have for this. I know my man is looking at me like we've got to get out of here. I'm trying to find it, ds4s.net. If you go there, scroll to the bottom, you will see the app right at the bottom where it says language, try free version. Click on that, and then you can put a word in there and it will tell you so if I type the word free, yeah, kafush, I was right. So look, I'll show you guys. Yeah, so we have an app to help you learn the language. And finally, on that same website, we have the 100 project in terms of helping us to build communities. People keep saying, why isn't there a store in Africa? Why isn't there a community here or there? Well, we have to build them, and we need your help to do that. We need your help to build our studio, and all these links are in the chat. And when you join our Telegram group, we can share those with you. So on that note, I want to say another word in our language, Miss Batia, which is wadu, which means bye.